Okay, thank you very much for the kind introduction. It's a pleasure and an honor. É sempre bom estar de volta a Lisboa, é um grande prazer. I will do everything in English. I hope you made sense of this in Portuguese. So I coordinate this research group in Brazil called the Ontology and Conceptual Modeling Research Group, which is quite big now, around about 50 people. And I also work, I'm associated to the Laboratory of Applied Ontology in Trento, Italy. So I have to acknowledge a number of people that have been, I've been blessed to work with very talented people for many, many years. So these results are all collective results. This is a talk about conceptual modeling, which is not about doing things only with computers in mind. So conceptual modeling is the activity of describing aspects of the physical and social world for the purpose of understanding a communication. And the adequacy of a conceptual modeling notation rests in its ability to promote understanding about the world among its human users. This is really, really important. The focus of this talk and everything I'm talking about here is to find ways that computer can meet the human halfway, as we were talking about this morning. So how technology can help human understanding, communication, and problem solving to address some very, very tough semantic interoperability problems. Conceptual modeling is becoming more and more relevant, although it exists for 40 years now at least. So the conference, the International Conference on Conceptual Modeling exists for 40 years. It's becoming more and more relevant. And why? Why now? I mean, what's different? One of the aspects is that we just have a much larger degree of automation producing information in all forms, as we were talking about this morning. And we have to make sense of this information. Data means nothing unless we have a proper conceptual scheme in which data can be interpreted. However, it's not the case that any logical conceptual scheme will do. So, for example, to cite the well-known and interesting example of Borges' taxonomy of animals that appears in his essay, The Analytical Language of John Wilkins. So he mentions this Chinese encyclopedia called the Celestial Emporium of Benevolent Knowledge, in which you have this kind of criteria for building a taxonomy of animals. Things like those that belong to the emperor, those that resemble flies from a distance, embalmed ones, fabulous ones, those that have just broken a vase, and so on. Interestingly enough, these are all logically possible categories. This point is made, for example, by the Princeton cognitive psychologist Paul Bloom in this very interesting book called How Pleasure Works, in which he says those that resemble flies from a distance is it's a logically possible way of grouping objects. But it's not how we naturally make sense of the world. No real